and welcome to Soulful. All right. Hello again, and welcome back to Soulful. Or welcome. If this is your first time, we'll be gentle with you. My name is Drew. Andrew J. Assini for the official paperwork purposes. And yeah, in this episode, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about how I see and understand the origins and the influences upon us that, support us in really in losing ourselves and then living in a way that isn't aligned, right? Living inauthentically is how I would describe it. And so, yeah, there's a variety of topics to be discussed. And I think this is one episode, but we'll see. Depends how I'm feeling. Because I'm also still mostly recovered from the Rona. And my brains are only slightly scrambled. And, yeah. And also, it depends how much my throat and my words talking can happen. But, yeah, that's the game plan for this episode. As a nice kind of follow-up to the previous episode, if you're interested, where I talked about how I see really like the core issue that a lot of us are dealing with and struggling with, or no longer struggling with. So, yeah, I'll give you a real brief walk-in. Yeah, that'll feel good. And then we'll go into some of the origins and the influences. All right, so the core issue as I seize it, as I currently understand it, is that, yeah, most of the stuff that we deal with in terms of like really significant challenges or consequences, I call them consequences. Yeah, like the crap, the suffering of our life, if you will. So for me, that was multiple addictions and anxiety disorders and depressive episodes, right? Like that crap, for me, were the consequences of being lost in the sauce, is how I describe it. But essentially living out of alignment with who you really are for an extended period of time. And then, and then we kind of lose which way is up, right? And so then the way to remedy that is to bring it all the way back and put our focus on learning how to live authentically so that we can trust ourselves, so we can listen to our own intuitive guidance and natural intelligence. And when we're living like that, then we don't get lost in the sauce, and then we don't deal with a whole bunch of extra bullshit, right? So, yeah. Cool. So you can go back and listen to that prior episode if you want. I think there's some good stuff in there, but that's the summary. And so then, for me, the next topic or the next question that pops up, it's like, okay, sure. Like, I've been living out of alignment. I've been living inauthentically. And, and then that's why life sucks in a variety of reasons. How'd I get like that? Like, who's to blame? Whose fault is this? And it's nobody's fault. It's definitely not your fault. It can be your family's fault or society's fault, or it can be whoever's fault you want if you want to stay in the blame game. But the way I've come to understand it is, like it's nobody's fault. Really, like society currently is set up in a way that it's going to pull you from yourself. Like there's just so many influences that want you to be a particular way or be a particular version of yourself. So living authentically is like, to make it into adulthood with like any degree of authenticity is much more the exception than the norm. And for me personally, like I didn't even make it to adulthood. Like late teens, early 20s, I was already so lost in the sauce, and then so lost in the consequences and the pain of addiction and, you know, mental health stuff that, yeah, I wanted to check out. You know, like I was over life. And, yeah, and then I did it. And, somehow, you know, miraculously, magically, I got cooked enough in suffering that I cracked open, you know, and then a whole nother life became possible. And so, yep, I didn't do anything heroic. I just suffered real bad. And, you know, and then I was gifted a wonderful opportunity to have a totally different experience of life. And so I do my best to honor that in how I live. And I also do my best to, you know, give myself some grace and some patience and some understanding when I fall short. Because I do still frequently in lots of ways. Just another knucklehead out here trying to human in a really, yeah, funky environment, a really funky container. If you can relate, if you can identify, I see you, I feel you. It's nice not to be alone. All right. Yeah, so let's shift gears a little bit and start to talk about the origins and the influences. So, yeah, so like we're born, we come into existence as a little nugget of humanness, right? And we have like innate intelligence. You know, like there's so many examples of like instinctual intelligence in humans and other animals. You know, like we know certain things fundamentally, instinctually, right? Like naturally. And we have intuition that can guide us, you know, and move us and pull us if we're listening, you know, if we're connected to it. And so we show up in the world as a little nugget of humanness with a natural guidance system, right? And then it feels like almost everything in the world around us starts pulling us away from that, or pushing us away from that. And again, I don't think it's anybody's fault. We can go blame game if we want, but you know, that's not really fun. It doesn't get anywhere great. But I've just come to understand like, oh, this is the nature of the experience. You know? And it's actually like a pretty cool trip when we can step back and see the bigger arc. But that's not always easy, especially when we're in pain or, you know, we're going through something that we feel like is unfair or unnecessary. So, yeah, I feel like the first origin of inauthenticity, try to say that 5 times fast, or the first like major influence or upon us as a little nugget of humanness is the societal container at large, right? And so we are currently birthing nuggets of humanness into a society in, well, I'll talk about the United States specifically, but also the world. Yeah, like it feels like the vast amount of nuggets of humanness, the people out here, like, are just caught up in a lot of stuff that, yeah, is, like they're all lost in the sauce, right? And like what I've seen is that a lot of people can function better or worse in the sauce. So then, you know, and you get gold medals if you do better or worse in the sauce. I would love to see us like no longer need to function well in the sauce or in the lostness, right? Like instead, let's just be ourselves and experience that wonderfulness. But yeah, I mean, in the United States right now, like it's a shit show. Yeah, it's like clown time at the circus, I guess. You just get like the people in charge are not really overly concerned with the well-being of the every man or every woman. Yeah, there are systems that maybe were originally designed to support the best interest of the public or the best interest of, you know, the every man or the every woman. But yeah, currently those systems are being pillaged and manipulated ruthlessly by folks that can take advantage, you know, and yeah, just got a lot of people. I mean, the way I see the world right now is there's a lot of people who have a lot of like fear and sadness, anger, hurt that they're just not dealing with. directly, and so they deal with it indirectly by doing a bunch of behaviors that are like less than great, and also potentially cause harm to others. And so when you got a bunch of reactive pinballs with a lot of emotional baggage banging into each other, it's a it's a friggin' massacre. It's like a bloodbath. Yeah. And unfortunately, we see all sort of manifestations of that in the world today. Yeah. Who left the people unsupervised? Who's supposed to be in charge of the humans? Oh, man. So, we're born into a world, a society, right, that has certain values, certain beliefs, a lot of beliefs about the world that have been passed down for generations but never questioned. Like I've seen it in my own family system. Like there's stuff that me, my sister, my mom, my dad all do that it's an automatic behavior that probably was born 3 generations earlier in the Great Depression, right? But it's just been passed down, and then there isn't the awareness to recognize it, and then then potentially shift it. Yeah, so we got a lot of people who have lost touch with themselves, who are carrying a lot of baggage and weight, and and people are, we're doing the best that we can, with the current level of awareness, with the current norms as far as what's cool and what's not cool regarding being alive, having emotions, being a human, being in relationships. We're fighting against the generational hand-me-downs as far as beliefs and traditions and customs. And so, we come into the world as this like raw, beautiful nugget of humanness, and then we are like immediately saturated in the environment and its values and energies, and then we're so brilliantly intelligent that we start learning quickly on multiple levels. Like, oh, okay, this is how you human. Oh, okay, this is how you fit in. Oh, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. For some of us, though, what we see and learn from the world around us quickly becomes in opposition to what we know to be true within us. And, and that's not fun. I can tell you that from first-hand experience. But, all right. So if you're wondering why maybe you don't live as authentically as you'd like to, if you're wondering why maybe you'd like to be more yourself more often in more situations and more relationships, but you don't, for whatever reasons, right? These are some of the reasons. These are some of the influences that, have impacted us and shaped how we understand ourselves and how we participate in our lives. And so from the rip, we're thrown into this current societal human culture pool where in a lot of places it's pretty gross. And it does seem like, I don't know what this is, and this might be a psychological like term too, but it feels like one-on-one people are amazing. But then once you get a couple knuckleheads together, man, like we like draw some of the, or I'll say it like this, it feels like it's easier to draw some of the worst behaviors out of us when we start to like accumulate in mass. But also what I've witnessed many times is that one of the greatest change agents is a group of people that are on the same wavelength with a common vision. It's cool. So it's like we have the capacity to multiply each other in cool ways and in not so cool ways. And what I see in the world currently, is a multiplication and an amplification of the pain and the fear and the sadness that a lot of folks don't want to deal with individually. It's become warped and then projected out into the world. And we're dealing with our junk, but like indirectly in weird ways that impact each other. Where we could just, figure out our own stuff. Like that would be cool if more of us are doing that. And I do think more and more of us are doing it, which is a direct result of the world being loud and crazy and painful at times. But All right. You don't need my whole my whole shtick on the world there, but painting a little bit of a scene of the larger culture, right, that we're brought into in the world and what we start learning very quickly. And one of the primary ways we learn the cultural societal shtick or spiel, right, is through our immediate family, right? And specifically our parents or whoever our like primary caregivers are. And people are people. We all got different personalities. So depending upon the personalities and the capacities of our immediate family and primary caregivers, we're going to learn certain behaviors and be impacted in certain ways, right? Like if you grow up in a household where emotions aren't identified, talked about, recognized, or dealt with, that's a behavior pattern that you're gonna, potentially learn or quickly like realize is not fun. Whereas, somewhere else, emotions might be thoroughly encouraged and there's time to process everything and there's space, for everybody's experience, and then that's going to have a particular impact on our development. And then maybe, we were annoyed with emotions. So we decided to go, totally the other way. I feel like the way that our immediate families and our caregivers, our parents, maybe even grandparents too, like the way they have learned to cope and exist and survive or thrive in the world, like that's going to be a very primary layer to our conditioning and our learning, which could be really cool if you are on a similar frequency as that, but could also be really not fun if you vibe differently than the personalities around you. And I've seen it tons of times in families where, like there's certain personalities that get along with certain personalities better. Nobody's evil or bad or wrong. Like, yeah, even with my niece and nephews, like I can vibe with them individually differently, better or worse at different times, and it's not like my fault or their fault. It's just kind of our natural rhythms and systems. And sometimes they align and sometimes they don't. And again, like I played personally the blame game for a long time. Like my mom was the villain of my story for a long time until I was able to understand myself more, which then translated into understanding her as a person. And so that's why I'm big on the, like, it's nobody's fault. Don't spend too much time there if you don't have to. We definitely want to acknowledge if there's pain, and not like gloss over it and just go right to the bypass forgiveness kind of shtick. But yeah, like once you feel your pain, then keep it moving. Don't get stuck there. I spent a little bit more time than I should have in the blame game, like upwards towards parents and grandparents. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was there as long as I needed to be, I guess. But today, yeah, it's like, oh, my parents and my grandparents, like they're not evil or bad. They didn't like intentionally like do things to me. Like they're humans on their own journey. They learned what they learned, and then they taught what they taught. And we've been in this generational, I call it a generational drift, because it does feel like people have drifted away from living authentically, but now it feels like we're starting to drift back. Like the tide. It goes out, comes back in. So yeah, there's a lot there. But because I mean, yeah, I have a lot of my own journey and processing related to my own, primary family, my mom, my dad, generations above us. But I think, yeah, that's a whole episode to itself. But just taking a moment here to recognize that when it comes to living out of alignment, again, we've had a lot of help, and that help or the influence, has shown up through society as a whole, also through our immediate family, primary caregivers, right? Like they've impacted us and conditioned us and programmed us in ways that may or may not be in alignment with our own truths. And sometimes, we live totally out of alignment with the society's truth as a whole. Right? Like one of my favorite like little anecdotes is like if you're born in a certain culture or country where spirituality is understood to be like the core of life, right? Like spirituality and the mundane aren't separate, like it's all one thing. Then when you recognize that you are also spiritual or a spiritual being, or, however you want to frame it, it's like, yeah. Like, cool. Welcome to the party. But if you live in a society that's like spiritually bankrupt, then the idea that you might be sacred or divine is you're going to get some pushback, and people are going to think like, who do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. All right. So, influences so far upon us that we've discussed: society at large, family. Then the family gives way to like our friends and our peer groups. And and that happens usually somewhere in the teens. Like my oldest nephew is now 12. Yeah, I think he's 12. So like the period of time in which his immediate family is the primary influence upon him is fading. And sooner than later, yeah. Well, y'all know if you've been around a teenager, or if you can remember being a teenager, like your parents go from like the smartest godlike beings ever to the dumbest people that you don't want to hear anything from, and that's usually around the time when then, our peers and our friends become the most important influencer social group in our lives. And that's really when, life and society and culture can start to impact us again in another way, right? And now here's another layer of conditioning and new waves of programming. Yeah. And the image that comes to mind is like, when like 12, 13, 14-year-olds like hear something at home, like they overhear a conversation and a word or a phrase, and then they bring it to school and they start like throwing it around, but totally in the wrong way. But it has impact. Like I remember, I can't remember an exact phrase, but like I remember like kids would like say stuff at me in like middle school, and it just, it didn't feel good, but I had no idea what they were talking about. I was like, I don't know what he just called me, but it sounds bad. So, oh man, that's bad. I must be bad. Yeah. Teenagers are nuts. What if humans are just like the teenagers of life? Maybe that's what's going on here. Earth is like the, I was going to say the Bay of Pigs. What's that damn book? Ah, shit. That book where the kids are just, they take over and they just run it, and it's crazy. Like, I feel like, if you just let teenagers run amok without some kind of mature supervising adults, shit would get real quick. And I feel like there's a direct correlation there to like humans being the teenagers of life. Right? Like, because like life has been around for a long time. Humans are just a recent manifestation, and we're definitely not the last version of life that's going to manifest. So maybe we're just we're life as teenagers, which is why the world is such a shit show, but also has such like potential brilliance to it too. That's good. I like that. Humans are the teenagers of life. All right. Well, let me do a time check. All right, we're doing good. We might be able to keep this to one episode. Yeah, so then we got our friends and our peers are now influencing us and impacting us with their opinions, what they think they know, right? We're trying to fit in. That evolves into, really it's like education is happening the whole time. And then evolves into work, right? Like occupation. And I'll do a whole episode about this in the future. Like our current education system is maybe like 7% education and like 93% indoctrination, right? Like what children are taught in school is a very limited amount of perspective and information designed to cultivate a particular understanding of the world, designed to facilitate a particular participation in the world. Like education is not currently really fostering our ability to live authentically as ourselves. If anything, that's like beaten out of us in education and occupation, right, in those settings. And it takes a pretty strong-willed being to emerge from educational and occupational influence and impact with any degree of authenticity. I mean, think about, like, you're born into a world that has certain rules. You're born into a family that has certain rules and certain personalities. Then you're in friend groups in educational and occupational settings that all have certain rules and expectations and, like obviously stated what you got to do's, and then a lot of like insinuated what you got to do's, right? Requirements. Like it's miraculous that any of us retain any shred of our authenticity. And for me, I didn't. I think, like I just got totally lost and then got spit out the other side. So it's not, I mean, maybe some part of me remained authentic the whole time. That's why like I couldn't fit into the world, or it was so painful to try to like be what all these influences were like trying to push me towards. But yeah, I wasn't like successfully authentic. I was just in a lot of pain and a fucking knucklehead for a while. Yeah. Huh. Cool. It's always nice to reflect in the middle of all this. A couple other influences definitely need to be mentioned. Like the media advertising energy. We are, inundated, flooded, drowned with a million opinions from a million different organizations that definitely don't have your best interests right at heart. Like the capitalist United States energy, or really, I mean, capitalism predates the US, but it's been able to run amok in this particular country's history. We're essentially like livestock. The people in mass are a herd of livestock that are being pushed and pulled in ways that serve somebody else's bottom line and agenda. If you turn on the regular television and watch the commercials, like every commercial is an assault on what you should think is important. And then we have TV, we have social media, we have all the apps. It's just media everywhere in all forms, short form, long form, pictures, memes, video. Like, oh my God. Again, how even an ounce or a shred of authenticity could survive is it's kind of miraculous. And yet we do, which to me is a testament to like how real and true what we actually are is, that it can survive this onslaught of noise and influence from every direction from the moment we're born. That somehow there's some part of us that still stays pure. Yeah. It's pretty cool to think about. It's easy to get caught up in judging the world, but it's also pretty cool to recognize that what we really are, it survives it all. So, yeah, I don't have to go too far on social media shenanigans and, having the phone in your pocket, which is like nonstop madness. Also, I'm going to put this out there for folks. I would encourage you to turn off all of the notices on your phones, even for just like a day or two, and see what that's like. For me personally, I have no notices turned on for any app, for any part of the phone. My phone doesn't come to me. I go to my phone. And I still go to my phone a little bit too much, a lot too often. But but my phone doesn't dictate my life, according to some app dinging or somebody sends me an email. Or I know some folks, you're in positions where like you can't really turn it all off, but like try scaling it back even, and see how much more of your life you get back for you, instead of being like a reactive just pulled anywhere and everywhere by a ding of your phone. That shit's like, that's insanity. Me being on the other side of that spectrum, yeah, when I see folks just get pulled out of a really authentic, beautiful conversation into their phone and then they disappear for the next 20 minutes or 2 hours, it's like, oh, all right, see you later, bye. Whatever in your virtual made up world apparently has your attention now. So I'll see you later. Yeah, try it. Let me know how it goes. Turn off all them dang notifications. All right, and then yeah. And then last little piece here. So life is busy and crazy and wild and, everywhere and all the time. And so a lot of us struggle with different parts of it. Some of us, though, like in our experience, have very clear-cut boundary violations, right? Like in one way or another, we have a boundary violated, right? And so we can use the word trauma or abuse here. Like I said, I prefer the term boundary violation because it feels like it encompasses more and it doesn't come with the same kind of stigma that sometimes comes with the word trauma or abuse. But like a lot of us have been dinged and dented or even like cracked open at different points by life events, by experiences. And you bet that that's going to shape how we show up in the world. Like if I'm going to be, if I'm going to have boundaries violated when I try to show up more authentic, then I'm going to bury that. I'm going to hide that. And that's a lot of the work I do with folks sometimes is bringing that like younger sense of self or like bringing a more authentic version of someone like out of wherever they've been hiding because of the shit that's happened in their life. And I mean, like, trauma and abuse, it doesn't just impact like how we understand the world, like it impacts us on a biological level, right? And then our biology in a lot of ways informs the projections we create and the perceptions that we create about the world, which then inform how we participate in it. And so if you've had boundary violations that have impacted you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of those ways, I mean, it. If you're relating, that those experiences have had an impact on how you show up in your life and how authentically, you can live or will live in different situations or circumstances. Yeah, again, it's like it's miraculous that any shred of our authenticity survives in this world. And I don't know if like this world's always been like this. I mean, maybe it has. I only remember, these 40 years so far. But I feel like in different cultures and at different times, maybe it wasn't so hard to live authentically. That maybe, the natural, intuitive intelligence and presence that we are was known and recognized and honored and lived and celebrated. Like when I think of different cultures that live more in alignment with nature as a whole, right? Like where there's an understanding that humans are part of nature, not like nature is here for humans. It's a very, very young, immature perspective. But I feel like the cultures where there's an understanding that humans are just a part of life, a part of nature, that there's a greater capacity to live authentically and for that to be accepted and encouraged and recognized. But the world I've come up in this incarnation, dang man, it's hard. It's like uphill both ways in the snowstorm with like rocks being thrown at you. Shit. Yeah. So if you're here listening to this, vibing with this, if you're just beginning a journey of living more authentically or curious about it, or if you've been doing this thing for a minute and you know what it's about, like, thank you so much. And hopefully I'm fanning that flame a little bit here and, and letting you know that, it's so important. Because for me, that's where the freedom is. Like I've never found the peace or freedom or contentment or satisfaction in living according to all of the rules and regulations and systems that have been imposed upon me in this life. I've never found the hit, if you will, by playing by the rules. But I have found a sustainable, abiding peace and ease as I've come back to myself and begun investing my time and energy and attention in myself and in living in ways that honor who and what I am and what I'm about. Yeah. So if you're looking for like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it's you, baby. It's always been you. But if you ain't living in alignment with your being, then it ain't no fun. And it's easy to get lost out here with all the pushes and the pulls and the influence and the noise. But for whatever reason, at whatever point that you start to recognize some of what I'm saying and start living in this way, or like I said, you've been living this way, like it's a totally different ballgame. And for me, this is the medicine that this world needs. I'd say the society and the world is kind of sick. It's kind of unwell. And the reason is again, because as a whole, we're kind of lost in the sauce. So then we have all these consequences. And the medicine at a root level is more of us braving the elements, overcoming despite all of adversity, the push out of alignment. And we're coming back to ourselves and we're learning how to walk the tightrope. And the cool part, though, is that the more practice we have walking the tightrope of authenticity, of being ourselves, the wider the tightrope gets. And then it's not a tightrope anymore. It's a path that's much more easily navigated the longer we're investing and the more that we're investing in ourselves and in learning how to live like this. So if you're early on and it's a little precarious, been there, dig it, honor that. That's true. Also, keep going. It'll get easier. Surround yourself with good people who know firsthand, who are living this thing, and they'll scoop you up. They'll help you. I mean, that's how I wound up here, through dozens of amazing beings that served as like major teachers or minor teachers or whatever, people who were able to point at some stuff and sometimes give me a smack in the ass, other times give me a hug, but helped me and supported me in continuing to live more authentically. And so, there's a lot of influence and noise trying to push us off our line, but there's also a lot more noise. Well, maybe it's not noise. Maybe it's music. Yeah, there we go. We'll say it like that. Because if you're on a certain frequency, this kind of stuff is music for the soul, right? So there's a lot of noise that's pushing us, this way or that way. But there's more and more music available on this wavelength to listen to that makes walking this journey easier. And, and then, the beauty just unfolds. So, all right. Good. That feels good. Hopefully, some of this is insightful or mildly entertaining. And, these are just some of the origins or the causes or the contributing factors, the influences that I have seen in my life and in the lives of people that I walk with and work with. That sometimes make it super easy to live out of alignment. But it ain't got to be like that. We can come on home and live free as we be. All right. Once I start talking like that, I know it's probably time to end the episode. So let me do a little time check. Okay, cool. Right at the 40 limit. So we're done. Thanks for listening. As always, tune in for the next episode if you want to hear about the terrible, wonderful blessing of pain. Be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Radiate that out into the world. Stay awesome. Until next time, love y'all.